Hi, I'm Ryan. Now, recently I've been looking at a lot of tips, a lot of videos about making movies and videos with DSLR cameras. Recently I picked one up myself with a whole heap of gear, tripod, lights, microphones, everything that I need to make a good quality video and get a good production value. Now, there were these 5 tips that I was constantly coming across when I was doing my research, and they started actually getting really annoying because I was hearing them all the time from different voices. So today I thought, let's experiment a little bit. Let's deconstruct these 5 tips. Now, I'm not going to go into what these, to detail with these tips, but just a quick overview is to set things like your exposure manually, your f-stop, your aperture, and your ISOs. Set them all manually. Set your focus manually. You don't want to have the, going in and out of frame, especially with a DSLR camera, constantly. You don't want the focus to always be changing. The next thing is to use an external microphone. You don't want to rely on the microphone that's within the camera because it just doesn't sound good. Get your lighting right. So, and think about your set. What are you lighting and how's it going to look? What sort of image quality do you want at the end of the day? What do you want it to actually look like? Finally, use a tripod. You want a nice, stable image, so you don't want to have to do it too ad hoc. So use a tripod, have a good support system, and keep it stable. So now I'm going to go through these 5 tips and deconstruct it. Right now I've got everything set up how it's supposed to be. Everything's in manual, the settings, the focus. I've got my external lapel mic that you may or may not be able to see on the shirt right there. I've got my lighting set up. I've got about 2,000 watts of light, and I've also got it on a tripod. So let's start with the manual settings. Okay, I've now just put it all into manual. So my ISOs, my f-stop, and my aperture is all being controlled manually. But as you can probably tell, I still have my microphone on. What you can't see behind me most likely is I've still got my 2,000 watts of lighting going on. It's still on the tripod and the focus is still manually set. Okay, now I've just set the camera to autofocus. Now, I'm just going to move around a little bit. The camera doesn't really like it, especially if you move forward a little bit, back a little bit. It does a decent job of focusing, but we don't want all this constant movement going on. We don't want all this changing, because if we move too fast in and out of frame, or if we do something that's more than just a little bit of movement, it's going to refocus everything. Even when you don't need it to refocus, it will still try to refocus, like now. So this is your autofocus. Now, I've just unplugged the microphone. So we're in the built-in mic of the camera. You can probably hear the difference right now of how it sounds. You can see the difference in the image quality, and with the letting the camera make all the decisions. And this is how it sounds without my lapel mic. I've still got it here, but I just unplugged it from the camera. So I'll just to prove it. It doesn't want to come out. There we go. There is my lapel mic, and that's on the table. You shouldn't really hear anything different now. Finally, we have our lighting. So this is I'm going to turn off my 2,000 watts of lighting, and we're just going to be running on fluoros which are in the ceiling. And this is how I look and sound without the lights. There's one last thing. So I'm going to take the tripod, the camera off the tripod. Now this is how it looks when it's actually being held, and you can really see now that the autofocus isn't doing a great job, especially with this constant little jerk. So I'm just going to put this down on the table, get myself back up. There, that's all I have to do. And now we've got no tripod. So on the table's kind of high, but I don't like it. I've got this constant movement of the lens. It's just almost resting on the table. I'm just worried that if it drops a little bit, we might have a problem with our lens. So that's it for now. I'm going to go back and give you one last shot of what it looks like with all the manual focus, with all the stuff that you're supposed to do working. Now I'm back with everything set back up, and I'm sure you can tell the difference. You can see the difference from my background through to my audio, and even when I move a little bit side to side, we don't get that constant movement of the lens. The other thing is when we went to onboard microphones in the camera, we would have also heard the servo and the lens actually change all the focus. So this is the result of doing everything according to these 5 tips. And you've also seen what it looks like when you ignore it. So this has been my first video on DSLR shooting. How important the 5 tips are, being set everything manually. Your ISO, your ISOs, your f-stop, your aperture. Set your focus manually. Use your external microphone. Think about your lighting. Think about what you want to light and the look that you're going for. Finally, put it on a tripod. Don't just think that, oh, I can put it on a tall shelf, because you don't have that certainty that it's going to stay in place. And you've got to be careful of that lens too. You don't want the servo to get busted or just not to stop working one day. You don't want to damage the lens, the glass, even if it is a cheaper lens. I hope you found this valuable, and for more videos in the future, just subscribe.